You think Common Ground is worth a buck? Consider leaving a tip at lptv.org. Lakeland Public Television presents Common Ground, brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Hi, I'm John Parsons. Thanks so much for joining me on Common Ground. We're off to forage for mushrooms with the Paul Bunyan Mushroom Club, and hopefully there'll be something good to eat when we're done.
We're at the Ranch House in Walker, Minnesota. This is the Paul Bunyan Mushroom Club's 8th annual Fall Mushroom Banquet. And we're together here enjoying a meal prepared with mushrooms and celebrating the end of the foray season and looking forward to another season next year. In the Paul Bunyan Mushroom Club, we have our forays in the summer and then up until early October. For 8 years, we've been having a fall banquet as a time to sort of celebrate our interest in mushrooms and to enjoy a number of dishes prepared with mushrooms. The last 4 years we've come to the Ranch House, and the Ranch House has been great, working on menus and being very creative and coming up with new menus using mushrooms, and we're very pleased with that. And we have a good time here, and people can meet each other. And then for those of us that have been long involved in this, we can recollect with each other about our times with mushrooms. And some of the people who come are new to mushrooms, and they find out about the group, and they can plan on joining us on forays in the future.
Mushrooms are wonderful. Yeah. It'd be nice to know, how to pick mushrooms and know what's edible and what's not edible.
I'm John Mikish. Paul Bunyan Mushroom Club is a group of people that go look for mushrooms. The way we started it, I think it was 1989, the Minnesota Mycological Society, which is the Minnesota Mushroom Club, had a foray at Deep Portage. And two of us local people, myself and Paula Peters, met at that foray. That was our beginning. We just started. Both of us had been curious about mushrooms, and that was our chance to learn something.
We provide basic education we teach people about both edible and poisonous and non-edible mushrooms. We do a lot of educating. That's really pretty much the thrust of our club, is to educate the public. So everyone is welcome. It doesn't matter if you're not even wanting to get out in the woods or not able to. Generally, we collect what we can find when we're in the woods. We bring them back and set them on a table, and then we spend a little time talking about and teaching people about the mushrooms that we found that day.
This is a morel, and when we're hunting morels, sometimes we don't find any morels. This is an early LBM called...
I was guessing Colibia or not.
Yeah, right.
I found an inky cap too.
Yeah, you did. It's real early for that.
Yeah, it is. But the inky caps are great because the cap deliquesces. It self-digests. They're gone in a hurry.
Right.
This is the Caprinus is the general genus, although it's probably not a Caprinus, that with the striations, and it's got dark spored, and you can see on the edges there it started to digest itself. It secretes an enzyme that actually digests the mushroom from the outside in, and that's the way it releases its spores. Caprinus is an interesting group. They're really changing right now. What's happened is that since they've been doing DNA identification, the molecular studies, they found that it's really changed things a lot. Stuff that looked alike may not be in the same family at all, and vice versa. I did find also some turkey tails. These are interesting. That's a polypore, actually. Is that the white bottom one? Is that the turkey tail, or is it the dark spored one?
I thought it was the dark spored one.
Yeah, so this is a turkey tail look-alike then.
Right.
The real one, this is not it, but one looks like this, makes a real nice tea. It grows on dead wood. Really a lot of them grow together. They'll get very much overlapping. Well, no, those are violet tooths. Those are a little different. I'm Gene Kramer. I showed up with Paul Bunyan Club here mainly because it's a really good group. I belong to Minnesota Mycological Society down in the Twin Cities. A spring polypore doesn't have gills, it's got pores underneath. I do a number of Minnesota naturalist things. I do a Sunday morning nature walk at one of the environmental centers out by Duluth, where I'm from. But it's worth the drive over to be with this group. The Paul Bunyan Club's really great. And you really need a small group to make it worthwhile, I think. You can go out and pick mushrooms, but that's good. I do that too, but a big part of it is the people you're out with.
But it's a common one, actually. I recognize it, but
I've got
I can't remember the name of it.
a jeweler's loop to look at stuff too. It's sort of
Right.
fun. I like to go out with a couple of people I know that have a vast knowledge of experience. I got a background in biology and chemistry, but you can't learn this out of a book. You really need to go out with somebody who's been there. I always learn stuff.
And the idea of these forays is to learn how to find mushrooms, not necessarily to find a lot in each foray. Since we're not finding morels, you know, we need the good eyes. We don't have Kelly. Kelly is the expert. She's really good at it. We've been to forays like this, and nobody's finding any mushrooms. Then Kelly starts finding them, and then all of a sudden she starts finding them. So I'll let the word out that Kelly's got some, and
First come out of
people
the
will
ground.
come and look
They
at
start
Kelly's
out
mushrooms and sort of follow around where she
gray
goes.
and maybe tan, and then as they age, and their pores are expanding. See how thick the ridges are?
So that makes it a successful foray when people can learn what a morel looks like and feel confident they find one, they can find more.
There's nothing inside them, completely hollow. And that's how you positively identify a morel. So if you're unsure of what you've collected, you always want to cut it in half and make sure that it's absolutely hollow inside.
Kelly's been at the mushroom business for a long time. She lived in Red Wing for a while, and she joined us a couple times when she lived in Red Wing. Eventually she moved into the area. So she knew about mushrooms before we did. She still learns all the time, especially certain kinds like morels.
If it's too wet, they're going to be, it'll be too soggy. What I'm looking for is dead trees. They have a mycorrhizal association with certain trees. Up here with the black morels, mostly with poplar, but also with red pine. So you're going to be looking around. This area, since it was all poplar that was cut, the mushrooms could be anywhere. I like to look in these clear cuts in the edges of these piles, under sticks, where they are a little bit more sheltered from the wind. They like to hide right underneath one little green plant. This would be a perfect spot for a morel to grow, right there. Okay, we are going to get one real soon now. That is, of course, unless somebody came in here early this morning and picked them all.
Well, what do you know?
Found one?
Okay, before you pick it, don't pick it.
Don't pick it quite yet.
Oh, you picked it.
Oh, you didn't want it picked.
Right, so we could see what it looked like.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll find
Yeah, the
another
first
one.
couple of mushrooms we want to leave on the ground long enough for people to have a look at them. Okay, I have a mushroom in my sights. Okay, so if everybody wants to come over here, and let's just kind of stand off to this side and off to this side, right in here. So see if you can find it. Woohoo! You see it? Do you see it? Let everybody else find it.
Don't show me. There it is. Oh, well, they're going to be hard to see.
Yes.
Yeah, and look over here, Ian.
Yep.
Yeah, do you usually cut them or
You
just
cut them close to the ground, and then what do you have to put them in?
a bag?
Okay, good. And you want to make sure that before you put them in the bag that you've got as much of the dirt and soil off of them before you put them in the bag.
Oh, man. I'm so excited.
Now, I actually did walk past this patch. Now, look right where Scott's feet are.
Yep.
Right there. Right there.
Yep.
Yeah. So everybody's got a search image now. And you can see just how difficult in a habitat or a terrain like this it can be to pick these out. I mean, it is somewhat easier because we don't have as much green vegetation growing over that we have to move aside to find them. but they blend in, camouflage so well with the sticks and the dead leaves. So, happy hunting. A glorious day to be mushroom hunting. Any day you find the mushrooms is a glorious day.
Right.
Rain or no rain.
Oh man.
I saved that patch just for you. So as you get up over this hill, I'm thinking you may start to find a few more because it's got a little warmer location. I want a mushroom for my basket. It's a lot of habitat to cover. You know, this is by no means the only kind of place to find morels. I mean, they are in the standing forest. I hear people say that they find them a lot in poplar stands that are 6 to 8 inches in diameter. There's a lot of different kinds of poplar up here. There's been some discussion about one variety of morel that seems to like this big-toothed aspen. Even the birds are pretty quiet today. All I hear is that ovenbird singing. I have been hunting mushrooms, I bet you, for at least 20 years. When I first started, I was collecting more summer and fall mushrooms like chicken of the woods and chanterelles and oyster mushrooms quite a bit. And I hadn't ever considered looking for morels. So then I joined the Minnesota Mycological Society. I was living in the Twin Cities at the time, and started going with them on their forays and thought, okay, well, let's try this morel thing. Well, I searched for 4 years before I found my first morel. I just did not have an eye for it at all. It took me 4 years to find my first morel, and when I found it, it was less than an inch tall. It was under an apple tree in Forestville State Park, and it was the only mushroom I found that year. Well, the only morel I found that year. But after that, then I started learning more about habitat, and tree identification is, you really got to know your trees. Have you found any others?
I found a bunch of mushrooms and I was going to show you.
Well, let's see what you have. And did you put them in the same bag with your morel? That's not a good idea. Yeah, okay. Where did you find these?
They were all next to trees like this.
Okay, against the trunks of the cut timber. What you have here is a lot of Verpa conica, and it is often mistaken for morel early in the season when people are anxious for that first morel. Yeah. But you can see they don't have pits like the true morel. The stems are very similar, but they don't have the pits and ridges. And they're also hollow, like the morel. The stem will often be filled with kind of a cottony fuzz, and you can see a distinct outline of the cap. So that differs from the morel quite a bit. And this is a poisonous mushroom. There are a couple of these early spring mushrooms in the Verpa family, the Semilibra, the Conica, there's a couple others. And so you want to stay away from those. Now, an important thing is when you're collecting mushrooms for the table that you're going to eat, you never want to have them put in the same basket or bag with mushrooms that you haven't identified or that you know may be dangerous. It's not a good idea to mix them. Okay. So I usually carry several bags with me. If there's something that I want to identify later when I get home, then I'll keep those in a separate bag and keep one good clean bag for my edibles. And here, do you have a knife with you?
No, I don't.
If you don't have a knife with you, the preferred method is to cut them close to the ground, like so. Once you have this mushroom here in a bag full of other mushrooms you're going to eat, all that dirt and sand is going to be really hard to get out of all of these pits and pores, because we prefer not to wash mushrooms. So I want to make sure those are clean before they go in your bag. I'm going to give you a separate bag to keep your edibles in. Yep. I think you may have come across a good patch of those somewhere over here. Yeah. There. And you can return that bag when you're done with the hike. But hold on to those, because if anybody else in the 4A isn't familiar with those, we'll show those and talk about them some more.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Some people suggest that when you are cooking a mushroom for the first time and are not absolutely certain about its safety, keep one aside that you don't cook. So in case you were to get ill, you could have it, researched by someone who knows more, and they could determine what it is. Because when they say a mushroom is poisonous, it may simply mean that you get indigestion from it. It could also mean that it could kill you. I mean, there's a whole range of symptoms. There's a kind of mushroom called, what is the inky cap?
Coprinus.
The alcohol.
Alcohol inky, yeah.
If you eat it, after you've had alcohol, if you have alcohol afterwards, it'll make you sick. But just sick.
The alcohol inky cap, if you drink alcohol at the same time as you eat them, they're edible, but they react with alcohol, so you get real sick.
Also, when you eat a mushroom for the first time, you should keep the amount limited. You probably don't want to eat like a whole big plate full, because if you do have a reaction, it can be really bad. So limit the amount that you eat the first time as well.
I didn't bring my books with me, but I believe that's a Verpa conica. And one of the other things that this tells me, finding so many of this species right now, is that it's still just a little bit early for our black morel season. These are some of the first mushrooms to come up in fruit in the season, and usually when these are done, we start picking blacks. So the blacks are black morel is just starting. We're still seeing a lot of this early spring stuff.
All right. I thought I was done with this area already. Every time I just put away my knife, more show up.
We provide the reassurance that most people are looking for. They get out there and it's like, oh, I'm not sure if this is what I'm looking at or not. So we can, point them out to other ways to identify than just looking through a book or looking it up online. Such as taking a spore print, we can try to help people learn a few more identification skills, but then the reassurance is really helpful for people. It's like, yes, that is what it is. I've eaten many of these. That helps people feel more comfortable, and then also piques their interest and their curiosity, so they'll come, probably come a few more times till they feel more confident themselves.
Wow. And it isn't buggy.
No, it shouldn't be this time of the year.
And it must have just come out.
This is a guild mushroom that grows on poplar trees, usually aspen. And this is an edible. This is a good one.
Yes.
And this one's a little browner than usual. It may have been the temperature or whatever. Anise smell to them.
Yep.
And
well, there's several varieties.
Yeah. The one that grows in the spring is the Populinus mainly. Pleurotus is the genus name. I'm doing a project to try to identify the different kinds of Pleurotus we have in Minnesota.
Great.
Nobody's ever documented it. There's just been a few.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
Good for you.
Great.
Where'd you find them?
Well, it was on a dead. Aspen.
Yeah, over there somewhere.
Yep. And my husband had just walked over it, so he claims that.
That's normal.
Finding mushrooms is a hit and miss proposition. Conditions have to be just right for the organism to put up these fruiting bodies. So when you find a spot where there's morels or chanterelles or these choice mushrooms, the mycelium is in the ground all the time. It only fruits once in the spring or in the summer when the conditions are moist and hot and warm. So when you find a spot that produces, you don't share it with anybody. You save it for yourself, and you go there every year and you look when you think the conditions are right.
It's a funny culture that there's people who are really after the mushrooming. They're really out to get the mushrooms, and they will go out and scoop them before the group gets there. That's why a lot of times the clubs won't advertise with the forays when they go out. The spots are a little limited, so they're really very hesitant to share, because what happens is they come out and they see stumps. Somebody's already been there. The nice thing about it, if it doesn't get picked clean constantly, 95% of the organism is in the underground or in the wood, depends on what it grows on. And you're only picking the fruiting body If it is, you don't pick everything, you can handle it. There is an ethic about leave some. I think that's a good idea. The jury's out about scientifically whether that's the case or not.
I think that there are a couple of different motivations that people have in going mushroom hunting. For a lot of people, they want to find mushrooms to cook and eat. But also a lot of people are just interested in the phenomenon of mushrooms and the wide variety and how they just kind of pop up almost overnight. So when we have forays, usually at the end of the foray, we put what we collect out on a table, and sometimes we have a table full of mushrooms. If you look at the blog, there are a couple of photos there with a lot of different mushrooms, and then we attempt to identify them. And it's very interesting as a phenomenon of nature and as a scientific phenomenon. And then, of course, there are those that can be eaten, and it is kind of a delight to be able to cook mushrooms that you yourself collected. And with a group like this, with some experience, you gain confidence because some mushrooms are pretty foolproof in identification, and you can be fairly confident that they're okay. Others you really want to be careful with.
And there's one hiding in between the...
And I also have been planning the dinner we've been doing annually. We do it the Saturday before Thanksgiving in general, and we've had great food and great times, and so people can look for information about that too when it's available. We started with a soup that was made with maitake mushrooms, which are also called hen of the woods, which we can find around here, and king oyster mushrooms, and it had a vegetable base. And when I walked around talking with people, they really enjoyed that soup. And it was followed with a salad that included beach mushrooms, which are also an oriental mushroom. For our entree, people had a number of choices. One choice was kebabs, which could be made with chicken or beef, or both chicken and beef. And with that, chanterelle mushrooms were featured. That's also a mushroom that we can find around here in July and August. Another alternative that many people chose was almond-encrusted walleye with shiitake mushrooms. You know, meals are often times for celebration and socialization, and for our group, it's a nice way of finishing out the season. You know, we're done going on forays, and we can socialize and learn something more. We had someone who helped us in terms of telling us about the mushrooms included in the dinner. Anna Garanday is from the Twin Cities area, and she's a scientist, and she's been very active in mushroom hunting and very active in the Minnesota Mycological Society. And when the group was starting, she was a mentor to the group. And in the time that I've been involved, she's been incredibly generous, traveling up here to be with us. She's done some workshops with us, and she's come to these dinners to share the dinner with us and to also share some of her knowledge about mushrooms.
Well, fungi are very important for humanity. It's not just because they are edible, but they are also very important in the environment. Most trees form a partnership with fungi. In fact, these trees probably could not survive without these fungi. Another aspect of how we benefit from it is they are degraders of wood. They are degrader of forest debris, of leaves, of branches, of trunks. Just imagine all the branches, trees, leaves accumulating in a forest without the fungus. They recycle all these things, become nutrients. Another aspect of fungi is that they do have nutritional value for people. Some of them actually have medicinal properties. What they are hoping for is that they could find certain components in mushrooms that will answer some of the big medical problems that we have. Finding medications or components in mushrooms that would be useful in treating cancer, in preventing heart disease. In fact, there are some mushrooms which are known to control high blood pressure, to induce the immune system. Now that I am retired, I'm devoting my full time to mushrooms. One of the things I'm doing is collecting mushrooms in bogs, in wetlands, in swamps, to find out what occurs there. These are areas in Minnesota that we know very little about as far as mushrooms are concerned.
We're the only mushroom collecting group north of the Twin Cities, And so we get people who come from a long way. For example, there's someone here today that regularly comes from Duluth. We have people coming from as far as Ada and sometimes Fargo-Moorhead. In a way, we serve a very large area of the state in terms of having a group that people can become involved with.
If people are interested in joining us for a foray, they can check on the blog. Perhaps someone in, southern part of the state is interested in coming up here for a weekend, and it's like, oh, I wonder if they pick mushrooms up there.
The address is paulbunyanmushroomclub.areavoices.com with no spaces between the words, paulbunyanmushroomclub@areavoices.com.
That's a great way to connect with us, to find out when we have forays scheduled, and everyone is welcome. There's generally directions are given there to how to get to the forays, the dates and times and everything. So yeah, we welcome anybody who is interested in coming and learning.
That was really good food. Join me again next time on Common Ground.
If you have an idea for a Common Ground piece that pertains to North Central Minnesota, email us at legacy@lptv.org or call us 218-333-3022. To view any episode of Common Ground online, visit us at lptv.org. To order individual segments or entire episodes of Common Ground, please call 218-333-3020. Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people on the 4th of November, 2008.